I'm hammering the boat.
I'm so excited we got the medication. This has been like a 2-month process, I'm pretty sure.
I got a story to tell. I'm 30 days in a boatyard, turning the 13
Well, after 2 weeks of battling the tropical cocktail of typhoid and an amoeba, we are back on the boat.
Yep.
How does it feel?
It feels hot, but it does feel good to be back. I'm very glad we are not as sick as we were. We lost like 4 to 5 kilos each. We were vomiting and like stomach pains. We couldn't eat. It was bad. So the last time you saw me when I was in the engine, like immediately after filming and saying I was like doing better, I about half an hour later started vomiting again, and that's what spurred us to go to the doctors because Jim hadn't been well either. And yeah, typhoid and an amoeba. But now we'll get stuck back into it.
The other good news after that is it rained like for 11 straight days and the boat stayed dry.
And it like almost exactly started raining when we got sick, like almost to the day. So it kind of was good in that we wouldn't have been able to do that much on the boat anyway. So the timing of getting typhoid was not the worst.
Masking tape works as a very professional hole sealant. So apparently that's all you really need to do.
Ah, the magical blue tape. While Jim was working on deck, I was tackling the water tanks. A really big task on board, so big in fact that we're going to be devoting all of next episode to how we did it.
You can even say what you're doing if you like.
I'm hammering the boat.
To achieve what?
Just hammering it, you know. I'm trying to get this off.
So we're about to paint this area. We want to get this off.
Yeah, it's wiggling soft. There.
Hey!
It's off.
That wasn't so bad.
No.
Well done. Oh, yeah.
Well,
That's going to make it a lot easier to clean and... Ugh. Cool. Yay! Demolition!
Yeah.
It's always a good feeling ripping something off.
Yeah, I was not looking forward to trying to paint around that.
Nah, way better. Heading off to the airport to pick up the vincristine, the chemotherapy for Pachita. It has been an extremely long and arduous process getting this medication. We got ripped off on the Mexican medication black market trying to find it, and then it didn't come in its first delivery, and then we found it and then that couldn't be delivered and all these things. But now it is getting sent by plane and it should be arriving right now.
For those of you that haven't already met Pachita, she has a cancer known as a transmissible venereal tumour, which in non-vet talk means it's a sexually transmitted cancer. Yep, you heard me correctly. This cancer is spread when dogs mate and can cause some really nasty tumours. Normally these tumours occur around the genitals, but sometimes they can happen all over the body and in the internal organs. Pachita's family adopted her anyway, knowing this, and you'll remember we already spayed her to reduce the risk of this disease spreading. But I thought I'd just talk to you guys a little bit about the medication we're using for Pachita. So it's vincristine, which is a chemotherapy agent. So I've written out this little handout in Spanish for her mum because it's really important to know the side effects of this chemotherapy, but also like most chemotherapy agents, it's excreted in the urine and feces. So it's really important with the other dogs and with the humans in the family that everything's cleaned up well, and that, you know, no children pick up her poo or, you know, things like this. So it says all of those necessary things. So yeah, today we'll be heading to the clinic and starting her first dose of chemotherapy. She will probably need between 3 and 6 weeks. So once a week, every week for 3 to 6 weeks until the tumor's resolved. So yeah, I'm really, really happy. I'm a little nervous just because it's, you know, pretty strong drug, and we want to, you know, get her better. But I'm really, really excited because it has something like an 85% cure rate. So we've got a really, really good chance of Pachita having a normal and healthy life after this. So yeah. So I'm just preparing everything for when Pachita arrives. But with this medication, we actually dilute it quite a bit. So I'm going to dilute it in a 20 milliliter syringe with saline, and I'll probably be only using like a milliliter of chemotherapy agent. And the reason we do this is it's very, very important to get this into the vein because it's cytotoxic, and that's how it, killing cells is how it works. But if you accidentally get it outside the vein, like if the dog wiggles when you're putting the needle in, something like this, what can happen is it kills the cells wherever it touches. And so the area that the chemotherapy agent has touched falls off. It dies and falls off, and you're left with a real mess and a wound you have to treat, as well as then continuing chemotherapy in a dog that's immunocompromised because they're on chemotherapy. So very, very important that we're very, very careful not to get this outside of the vein. The other very, very important thing is that I'm going to be wearing gloves when I touch this medication, and I'm just going to be very, very careful because obviously I also don't want to get it all over my skin because it's a cytotoxic agent and I don't want to accidentally ingest any of it or anything like that. So yeah, we'll be very careful with everything. Alright, so to make sure it definitely goes in the vein, we'll be placing an intravenous catheter. I will then be putting this little injection port in, which allows me to stick a needle in the end of the catheter. And then, to try and reduce the risk of anything moving if she moves, we then place this butterfly catheter into the injection port, which means there's a little bit more free movement where we're not moving the catheter if I move this end or if Pachita moves. I'll also be flushing it with 5 mils of saline, and I'll be able to tell if the vein's open and make sure that there's no fluid going outside of the vein. And then we give the chemotherapy agent. So there's quite a few checks in place along the way to make sure nothing goes wrong as we're doing it. Sí, 18 kilogramos. Do you mind just giving her head a little pat while I do the shaving, just because that might scare her a little bit? Oh, what's she doing? Oh, some big nose, huh? Okay, so now we can put that in there and then we don't have to touch her so much. And we can check this vein is intact, so I can actually press here and feel the vein inflate. And I can also draw back and get blood. So, así yo chequear en la vena. Muy bien. Okay. So her dose is 0.5. I'm wearing 2 sets of gloves so that I don't come into contact with this medication. And we dispose of everything really carefully as well. So.
We were giving the vincristine slowly over 15 to 20 minutes. This helps reduce side effects such as nausea and dizziness. Thankfully, the more serious side effects like immunosuppression aren't as common in dogs, but we were still monitoring Pachita to make sure nothing went wrong.
Y a veces con la inyección, ella puede sentir un poco malo en el estómago, así si ella necesita vómito, yo puedo parar por un poco tiempo y empezar. So now I'm just flushing the last of the chemotherapy through. And we're doing that to make sure that there's definitely no chemotherapy left in the like catheter and syringes, and it's all gone into her vein. So when we pull it out, we're not leaving anything behind. And I find this set up really nice too, because it means she's been able to sit with her mum, getting a cuddle, you know, and it's not so scary trying to hold her this whole time. Alright, so Pachita's treatment's all done. She seemed to tolerate it really well. She definitely was like kind of sleepy and looked like, you know, was licking her lips a little bit. I think she did feel a little icky afterwards. But yeah, we've got her on all of her medications. Usually they need between 3 and 6 treatments, so we just got to keep going each week. We check. Basically the way we know when to stop treatment is that we don't want to be able to visibly see tumours. And if there are little bumps of scarring, when we rub those bumps, they shouldn't bleed. If they bleed, that's a sign the tissue's friable and almost definitely means there's still tumour cells there. Yeah, so that's the plan going forward. In a more well-equipped clinic, another option is we can take samples as well and look for cancer cells, but we don't have a microscope available here, so for now we're going with that method, and they have really good success doing that. And if in doubt, you do one more treatment is the kind of general rule of thumb, and that way you know for sure. Basically each vial of medication, by the time we get it here, probably costs, it probably ends up being about $150 to $200 per animal that we treat over the 3 to 6 week course, depending how much they need. So it is a really expensive treatment, but I think it's really worth it because it has such a high cure rate. You know, if we were treating a cancer where only 10% responded, it might not be a place to invest money that could go elsewhere. But especially in Pachita's case, chickens. She's a rescue dog. She's been given a new life. Her owner has rescued other dogs and really is such a caring lady. And yeah, I'm just really glad. I'm almost sure she's going to be in the 85 to 90% that respond to treatment. She's the right age and fits all the right bills to respond really well. And yeah, I think it's a worthwhile investment to save her life and make sure she lives happily. So I'm so excited we got the medication. This has been like a 2-month process, I'm pretty sure, of me like looking online, getting scammed by people, almost getting it sent and then finding out it can't be sent. Even this one got delayed and then there was problems picking it up and then we finally got it, and I'm just so glad to have done this first treatment. Very excited.
Back on board, Jim was back to painting, doing the etch primer, and 2 top coats on Chuffed. Thanks for watching, and a big thank you to everyone who supports us and has made Pachita's chemotherapy treatment possible. You'll be seeing more of her soon, but next episode will be devoted to how we did the epoxying in the aluminium water tanks.
KBN.
To receive notifications when new videos come out, make sure you've subscribed and click the little bell icon, which will send you all the notifications as things come out. Until next time, stay chuffed, everybody!